I know that especially with virtual events or hybrid events, there's just so much technology that goes into them. And they may be cheaper than in-person events, but they're not necessarily easier to organize. Like, especially if you're talking about a full-scale virtual conference, multiple days, multiple concurrent things going on, virtual networking, expo booths, registration, promotion. There's like hundreds of things to do. So even like big organizations don't like doing that on their own. And I'm a synthesizer and an organizer, a planner. So that kind of thing comes really natural to me. We built an awesome team to help take care of those 300 things that have to happen for those big events. For teams that don't want to train one or two people just to do that. And it's been a really fun journey, bringing all our skills together to put on these epic events.
If this is your first time joining us, please consider subscribing and hit that notification bell and hit that like button. This will be greatly appreciated in helping getting out this content to great leaders and great individuals like yourself. This is Cedric Francis, and you're listening to Lead to Greatness.
I'm Daniel Moss. I'm co-founder of We and Goliath. I come from a background of design, digital marketing, nonprofit marketing and organizing, volunteers and events, and music performance. And I sort of brought all these things together with a big passion for helping people tell stories and grow their causes. I started out in web design in high school, taught myself web design and started a small agency. And I've always loved helping people refine their story, tell their story, grow their business. And it's been really fun to kind of turn that into an events agency that helps with design and digital marketing. So helping people grow their events and get better results.
Wow, awesome. So what's your background? I mean, you get into web design. How did that come about?
Yeah, I just taught myself web design in high school because my friend was doing it and he was like getting successful with that. And I was a geek, so I was like, sure, I can learn how to do this. So going on websites, and then I studied web design and music, ran a web design company. Then I became a marketing director for a nonprofit for 4 years, trained 7 teams on all aspects of digital marketing and really grew quite a lot there. And then I merged agencies with my fiance, Michelle. She had also 20 years or so of design and digital marketing and entrepreneurship. And so we merged agencies to become We and Goliath, all about helping nonprofits and corporations with a cause or companies that care to host events that are meaningful and inspiring. And really, like, our unique sauce, our special sauce is that skill of design and marketing to help them get bigger results. Coming from that background, we were already helping with things like video editing and production, video ads, about us videos, webinars. And I also did marketing for things like, all types of events, workshops, conferences, concerts, tours. And then I was also a workshop facilitator. For about 10 years, I was leading self-growth workshops. So I know how it is, like on the stage or as a musician, as a volunteer, organizing events. And I know that especially with virtual events or hybrid events, there's just so much technology that goes into them. And they may be cheaper than in-person events, but they're not necessarily easier to organize. Like, especially if you're talking about a full-scale virtual conference, multiple days, multiple concurrent things going on, virtual networking, expo booths, registration, promotion. There's like hundreds of things to do. So even like big organizations don't like doing that on their own. And I'm a synthesizer and an organizer, a planner. So that kind of thing comes really natural to me. We built an awesome team to help take care of those 300 things that have to happen for those big events. For teams that don't want to train one or two people just to do that. And it's been a really fun journey, bringing all our skills together to put on these epic events.
So basically what you're saying, you guys taking care of the video, the audio, the lighting. I mean, you guys taking care of the whole works as far as the production. That's what you're saying?
So there's 2 types of events we do.
Okay.
Purely virtual events, where it's like live or simulated live from remote recording sessions and edited with a virtual platform so people can browse different sessions, maybe jump into networking or expo booths or live video. And then there's hybrid events where most of the audience and all or most of the speakers are in person, but you have a secondary audience online. And it's a unique set of challenges about how do you bring them together skillfully so the online audience doesn't feel like second-class citizens, but they feel really welcome. They know where to go when, and they're never looking at the back of people's heads or people mingling around the room. So you got all that like virtual strategy and planning. And then sometimes in terms of the in-person event, often we're just doing the hybrid part. So we send in some cameras and staff to take your in-person event online and do that merging. Or sometimes we also use our network of videographers and full AV teams to do all the lighting, sound, stage, etc.
Wow, that's so amazing. I want to shift to, individuals that's preparing these events. What are some of the common mistakes that organizations make in preparing, whether hyper or a virtual event?
Let's start with smaller events. If you're a solopreneur or a small company or small nonprofit, you may have not dipped your toes into virtual events yet beyond like a Zoom meeting. And I would say that one mistake would be thinking that it's either way too complicated or not going to work for X type of business, or you have to figure it all out yourself. There's some really affordable, simple ways to do virtual events that are small, like virtual networking events, all types of events, webinars, sales events, kickoffs, conferences. You can do them very simply. You can teach yourself some of the software. You go live right into the platform, everything all together or complex. But I don't think that people need to be afraid of experimenting. So there's a real missed opportunity in that a lot of people just canceled all their events. Let me get to the point. Like a lot of people just stopped doing events throughout COVID, and you don't have to do that either. If you're very techie, maybe you can figure it out or call on an agency and they'll walk you through the tech parts. If you're a big company, you're doing events on your own, or you've already been trying to DIY. Some of the main mistakes, I think, not planning early enough so that you don't get promotion out there, not prepping your speakers well enough so that you've got audio glitches, like people internet not working well. That takes some prep to get all of that, or the lighting and the cameras. And if you've got really poor video and audio, that's a disappointment in a virtual event these days. People expect some good production quality. And then I think one of the biggest ones, even for people who are doing all of that well, is people aren't planning enough interactivity and engagement into their events. They think they can just present. It's like death by PowerPoint, and people as attendees, especially if you're in a virtual event, you want to be brought into the event because you're not getting that in-person connection between sessions before and after the event that you would usually get. So it's extra important in a virtual event. Plan time for people to speak, to be heard, to meet each other, to contribute. I think the main reason why people get Zoom fatigue is because they're just like watching, it's boring, right? Like bring them into the story.
Engagement. What's the process around that? And what's the methods of how to keep the audience engaged virtually versus how they will be engaged inside physical event?
You can engage people visually, first of all, just by up-leveling things beyond looking like a Zoom call with adding some graphics, maybe some animation, animated lower thirds, and just wow people a little bit, right? Some background music, like your Eye of the Tiger, you get people like excited. But then the main ways to add interactivity into your event are giving people as attendees opportunities to connect with each other and the speakers. Some of the most obvious ones are chat, Q&A, and polls. You can also do things like connection recommendations, one-on-one meetings, networking sessions where you can freely move around to different themed groups or one-on-ones, expo booths where you can connect with sponsors, and maybe some extra fun things would be things like games, contests, entertainment. We do things like trivia contests, or even like a trivia game with a game show host, a magician. There's a lot of fun elements that you can bring in. But coming back to the basics, chat. The number one thing that every event organizer can do to bring more engagement in their event is ask their audience to chat with them throughout the session. Okay. Most people don't want to get their audience on video and audio because it throws off the timing, except for maybe like a Q&A portion. But throughout the whole event, you can engage people by asking them micro questions. Are you with me? Do you get it? Do you see the importance of this? Or simple polls, like give me a one-word feeling to what you just heard. Like, how did you enjoy that speaker? Give me a one-sentence takeaway. And then you read those off. And everybody's like, that was my thing. I just heard myself written back from this MC. I'm a part of the event. This is actually live. This isn't pre-recorded, right? Like, that is so fun as an attendee. We've done that in some workshops and people said, this was the best workshop of this whole conference. They love it. So everybody can do that. It doesn't add any cost or even, it just takes some planning and a little practice as a speaker to think about how you can ask those questions, where, and have fun with it.
Yeah.
My dad was a minister of prayer at a church. And when I would go to church with him, one of my favorite things was the community groups after the session. He would lead discussions and some of us would stick around and discuss the sermon. You could easily do that in Zoom breakout rooms or other virtual networking sessions. And I think very few churches are thinking about that, about how can we get people together in small groups to discuss what was just shared. Technically super easy. It just takes some planning. Or, the music component. I think most churches probably have that figured out by now, but if you don't, if you're like intimidated by doing live music on a webinar, because there can be a lot of complexities with getting the sound right, try pre-recording your music component. And then you can just stream it into the stream. So that way, the audio is good and you need less people to be on at the same time. And that can be a little easier. But I would say, coming back to the interactivity, I think the main mistake is often just not enough talking to the audience back and forth. I don't know, forgiveness. Okay. Let's say forgiveness was the theme of the day. Everybody has something to say or something to ask. Get them thinking, get them engaging rather than just like TV mode. Because otherwise, why don't they just go on Netflix? Right? Or watch a recording of your church from the past. It's as an event, right? Make it interactive, make it a dialogue, call on the wisdom of your audience and get them connecting with each other as well.
Wow, Daniel, that is a knowledge bomb. That is so amazing. I mean, you're really helping us right now. And that's someone that's taking notes right now that's really saying, you know what? And what I love about it, this is something that someone can implement right away. I mean, you just gave us a tip that can be implemented right away with no extra costs, just tweaking a few things. So I definitely appreciate you for sharing that. I want to go back to the events. So we talked a little bit about the events and we talked about the engagement in the events, but I mean, just kind of backing up to the beginning of getting people to attend the events.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. That's one of the things I'm most passionate about because of my marketing background. And I'm really proud that as an agency, we've helped organizations get 2x, 5x, even 7x attendance at their events compared to their in-person examples. One of our biggest successes was helping Organizing 2.0 in New York. They got 7x their attendance of their conference. They used to get 250 people. They got like 1,700 people. I think those numbers are correct roughly from my memory. They tripled revenue. Similarly, we helped a group that used to do an event at the United Nations in person around migrant workers' rights. Okay, so they're helping government, nonprofit, and corporate leaders come together to talk about how can we respect migrant workers throughout the whole hiring process. Okay, and that make sure that these workers aren't paying to get a job, for an application. That should be the company that pays. Very high level, beautiful discussion, limited by people having to fly in from all around the world, right? International events are like the best use case for virtual events because of the reduced cost and environmental impact and all of that. So they got 5 times the attendance that they've had at 4 years of this international conference and think about the impact of 5 times more people being involved in these really impactful conversations that affect people's lives on a high level. It's so inspiring. So how do we do it? Activating speakers, sponsors, and partners in the promotion by giving them everything they need to make it easy to share. That is our recipe. Okay, so that means branded graphics and videos with their name, their face, or their logo on it. And most of our clients, maybe they've thought of this, but they don't have the time. They have marketing teams or design teams, but they're busy with other projects. Yeah. So we've systemized all of the most important assets that you need to promote your event. Email, social, landing page, promo video. They all need multiple graphics, different sizes of graphics or videos. So we have this marketing support package, and we just have it very streamlined. So here's like 50 assets to promote your event, all done in a week. Wow. So it's done early. Amazing. It's done on brand. And then it's just easy for everybody to spread the word. You have all these messages, you can tag everybody, and they just all help promote. Right. But if you try to do that on your own, it doesn't get done, or it gets done very last minute and it's too late.
This is amazing. And I'm definitely excited, because a lot of times when, people like myself, when we're thinking about virtual events, I mean, it's just all the different things that goes into it. And I really love this concept. I mean, I love the name of the company, We and Goliath. I mean, dealing with those giants, around this big event. When I heard the name of the company, We and Goliath, how did this name come about?
Thank you. Yeah, it's a fun question. There's two internal meanings for us with We and Goliath. On the simple level, we are like the sling, right? The secret weapon for organizations to put on to do these big projects, to reach their goals. I love this story. Malcolm Gladwell re-envisioned David and Goliath's story in a book about this, where he says that we all think David was the underdog, okay, and he shouldn't have won. But in reality, based on all this research he did, historical research, David knew he would win because he had the right tools. He had this powerful sling. It's not a slingshot. It's this thing that whips around and builds up speed, and then it launches a rock, and not just any rock, but they found that the rocks there are ultra dense. And then he had like years of practice guarding his flock of sheep from wolves and things like that. So he had amazing aim. He had skills. He had tools. He had practice. Plus he had a team behind him. He had his whole army there with him. So that was really inspiring for me, but I realized we can't all be the expert at everything, right? So we're like your sling, like together, you and us, we are the we that can take on your Goliath goals. And then our second meaning is like, as a planet, we need to team up to take on the biggest challenges that we're facing, corruption, climate change, inequality. Like we need to get all our best minds and hearts together. And so that's like how we help with the partnership outreach, right? Activating partners and speakers. We also sometimes help get promotional partners to promote our cause-based events, especially in environmental, social, or economic justice. We have some awesome relationships, and we've helped, for example, get the Women's March to promote an event, or some really large groups with millions of followers on their Facebook to promote an event to get better results. And it's like, okay, we all need to team up, support each other, especially if you're doing something that is really benefiting the world. Let's all team up to take on these giant goals.
Love it. I love it. I've really personally, as a leader, I've really been thinking through something for the Gen Zs. And one of the things I was thinking about, I'm like, man, they're from a totally different world. They're born with cell phones. Cell phones is all they know. People that's born before 1990, kind of have a different concept, a different mindset. So I want to speak to that individual, maybe an entrepreneur, or maybe someone that's in the world of virtual event planning. What are some things that we may want to be thinking about right now, so we will continue to reach the generation to come?
I mean, one thing that comes to me is I think the younger generation knows that they're being given a tough hand economically. They're born into a lot of student debt, rent, housing prices, and of course, climate change. Like a lot of young people know that their future is at serious risk.
Yeah.
So I think you have to remember that in terms of what is your organization doing to help young people prepare for their future, to help solve some of these problems, be relevant, don't greenwash. Actually see what you can do to be progressive on the climate issue as a business. We all have responsibility to do that. And if your organization is in a mature industry, okay, there's a lot of competition. The way that you stand out, this is just general business advice, is showing that you care, showing that you're a good company, that you have a good culture, that you care for the planet. But especially with the younger audience, because that's life or death for them. So what are you doing there? And one way to do that, virtual events does certainly help with that. So much less costs for the attendee, way less impact on the environment. You don't have all these travel costs, planes, hotels, less physical waste, transportation. But see what you can do to green your company and to make an impact on social justice, on racial justice. I think that, to me, is like the number one way that people today are getting an edge, for one, on just pure smart business sense, but building up this community of people who are passionate about their brand, especially with the younger audience. They're too hip to be supporting old brands that are greenwashing. They know that you're doing that.
Wow. I want to ask you this as far as the industry perspective. What are your thoughts about the future of the event industry?
It's certainly in flux. So throughout 2020 and 21, it was all virtual. We did so many purely virtual events. Right now, it's almost all hybrid. Everybody knows that virtual has so many benefits. They don't want to let that go, especially national or international events. If you're local, maybe you don't need a virtual component currently. But if COVID picks back up, then you probably want that. And you may want to be prepared for that now. So I think hybrid is definitely here to stay. The benefits of being able to have a national reach for your event, reduced impact, greater accessibility for people who just physically can't travel. Also, it's easier to do things like captions for the deaf at a virtual event, much cheaper than in an in-person event. So that, like ACA compliance and stuff, that's another way to care for your audience, much easier there. But then, getting like a little more further into the future, I think that people are going to figure out how to, one, really master this engagement stuff that we're talking about. How to get people really jazzed about being a part of their event, feeling like an active contributor to their community. Not only that they're, answering questions or asking questions, but they're helping solve problems. They're getting maybe not only education, but they're getting like working plans, implementations, learning how to implement solutions, training, right? Back like real world training. I think the industry is moving. It used to be an experience industry, right? Or an information and experience industry, depending on the type of event that you're in. People came for learning or they came for the fun. But I think we're moving into the transformation era as an event industry, where you either want to be personally transformed if you're in like a coaching business, right? Or you want to help transform your work. You don't just want like a how-to guide that you're never going to implement. You want to learn to do it on the spot. You want to be walked through it. It's like the merging of e-courses and presentations, worksheets, handouts, bonuses, interactive sessions. That to me is the next level because it creates impact in people's lives and in people's business. This transformational events.
Wow, Daniel, that is another knowledge bomb. That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. That is really crucial. And man, that's really good information for the Lead to Greatness community to swallow. I want to shift over into leadership because there's leaders listening right now. What are some leadership growth tips, tools, advice that you can share with the Lead to Greatness community to help us reach our greatest potential?
I think the two things that are coming to my mind are the power of teamwork. So I used to have a small marketing agency or web design company, but when I teamed up with Michelle, my co-founder, with really good complementary skills, and then we found the right employees who have skills that we don't have, we grew so much. We doubled and then doubled again in 2 straight years. That I could never have done on my own, so finding business partners with the skills that you don't have, it's also more fun. But the thing, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So I found that to be very true. The second thing would be really know your audience. Take the time to ask your existing clients, customers, why do you come to us? I think this could be the single most impactful thing a lot of business owners do, is ask at least 10 people, what's the number one reason why you hired me? And that isn't gold. That is pure gold in terms of your marketing of your event or your business or your service. Because a lot of us think that we're one thing to people, but we really don't know that they're coming to us for something totally different. I may think that people come to us for our marketing skills and our technical expertise, but maybe they come to us just because I'm really friendly and they like working with people who care about causes, but that's not in my marketing, right? And maybe it really should be. Don't forget to ask. Yeah, why do you care about us, right? Like, people are shy to ask that, but that's gold. And it's easy. Again, it's like, doesn't have to cost you anything to ask that. You just have to get over some shyness, maybe.
Another knowledge bomb. Wow, Daniel, you're really helping us today. This is really exciting. And we Lead to Greatness so grateful for your wisdom and for your knowledge and for everything that you shared on today. This is so awesome.
Thank you so much, Cedric. You're amazing. Appreciate that.
Thank you. I want to ask you this. So if someone that's listening right now say, man, you know what? I want to work with We and Goliath. What can they expect from your service?
For sure. Well, we specialize in virtual and hybrid events, right? So if you have an event that you're doing in person and you want to add a virtual audience or go fully virtual, we will walk you through the whole process, from strategy with me about what's this event going to look like? What are your goals? How are we going to reach those? To the production of the event, right? What people see on screen or on stage, all the graphics to promote the event, the platform, which means like registration, website, interactivity, the whole thing. It's end-to-end event production. So you can focus on your content and your community and not have to worry about learning all this technical stuff and stressing over RTMP codes and live streaming encryption and all of this. Yeah, so we take all of that off your hands and help you grow your event and get better results. Wow. We do everything except like the event planning side. You have to get your content, you do your own content, you get your own speakers, and we help you take it from there.
So we get our own speakers, we have the content. Do you all have like a template that, you give to the client for them, some checkoff list where something we can go by, or? Yeah,
for sure. We have some great systems that we walk people through. And if you want to get like a preview of that, we have a checklist on our website, an interactive checklist right on the blog. You can check things off and go through your whole plan of the like 5 P's of events, from planning, production, platform, promotion, and presenters. It's got like a lot of our whole process there, but we walk you through that and save you countless hours. So I would definitely recommend, if you're putting on a big event, don't be shy, reach out. We'll give you a free strategy session to discuss your vision and see if we'd be a good fit. But yeah, feel free to start with our virtual event checklist, and you can see all that really goes into putting on a world-class virtual event.
Awesome. What's the name of the website?
It's weandgoliath.com, WEANDGOLIATH.com.
Wow. Awesome. So Daniel, if someone wanted to connect with you personally, where should they go?
Well, we're We and Goliath on all the social platforms. So you could reach out to us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook at We and Goliath. That'd be the easiest way to hit me up. I'm Daniel again, co-founder. And so I'll see those messages come in, and would love to hear everybody's reactions. I would love to hear like a takeaway from this. If you could leave a comment on our social walls about a tip that you felt like could transform your business or your events, please chat that back to me so I know as an audience, like what was most impactful for you, what are you excited about, or any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Daniel. Wow, this is amazing, 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 amazing. On behalf of the Lead to Greatness community, I want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule and adding value to us all.
Cedric, you're the best. Thanks again. Everybody at Lead to Greatness, keep rocking it. And let's do it together. We're virtually unstoppable. That's what I like to say. So let's get it.
And don't forget to subscribe to Lead to Greatness if this is your first time. And if this podcast was helpful to you, leave a big thumbs up. And also, I want you to check out our Marriage Coach podcast, the podcast with my wife and I. If you're on iTunes, please rate this podcast and leave a review and help get the word out. Again, thank you, Lead to Greatness Nation, for joining us on today. Looking forward to seeing you again on next week. Till then, remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world. Peace. We out.